We're back to our home base, close to it anyway, here in Georgia, out at this beautiful lake. It is really a nice day, and I'm back to my favorite guitar in the whole wide world that is actually for sale, to tell you the truth, because I don't get to play it very often, because I don't like to bring it with me on these trips. I'll show it to you in a minute, but since I haven't played it for like 5 or 6 months, I thought, and it's been in storage, I thought maybe today would be a good day to get it out, give it a good once over, put some new strings on it, and talk about acoustic guitar setup. So let's get some tools and get going on that. So here it is. This is my 2017, I think, Breedlove Premier Rosewood Dreadnought. So it's a rosewood back and sides, spruce top, ebony fretboard. Just, I don't know, to me it's an HD28 killer. I love this guitar. The only problem with it is that in the varying climates and humidities and stuff, I don't know, it's just so nice that I'm kind of scared to travel with it. So that's why I'm going to sell it, and I have something on my sleeve to replace it with. I just haven't, I need to sell this first. So anyway, but I want to get it all ready and get it super set up. So let's go. Oh, I need to grab another set of strings. Let's get these strings off and get this thing cleaned up. All right. I flipped this around because the way the sunlight was coming. First we're going to go ahead and get the strings off of this thing. I just want to look at the frets. There shouldn't be any wear or anything. This thing has been killer so far. Alright, one very interesting thing about this guitar, but you do kind of have to be careful when you change strings, is it has a pinless bridge. So when I pull the strings out, I don't like it to pop against the top of the guitar. Bugs, because you don't want to scratch the top of the guitar. All right, so everything looks pretty fantastic. The frets are nice and clean. I just never get to play this guitar, so it doesn't have any wear or anything per se. So a couple of things we want to talk about guitar setup on an acoustic guitar. It's a little bit different than an electric guitar. Is we're going to still do the same exact thing in the same exact order, but there's a couple of steps that are a little bit different. First of all, we're going to pick the set of strings that we're going to put on the guitar, and that is going to determine how much tension is on the guitar. Once we've determined how much tension is on the guitar pulling this way, then we are going to adjust the truss rod to counteract that tension to give us a flat playing surface. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to double check our nut height, which I suspect on this guitar will be perfect because, like I said, there just hasn't been much wear on it. It's basically brand new. But for the purposes of conversation and understanding how to set up an acoustic guitar, we're going to go through all the steps. Setting the fretboard relief, the neck relief, then we're going to look at our nut height and make sure that it's good. And then we're going to look at our saddle height. But here's where it gets a little bit different on an acoustic versus an electric. On an electric, you're just going to take screwdrivers and you're going to adjust your saddle height, right? But on an acoustic guitar, you actually have to take this out. Typically when you get an acoustic guitar, from the factory, the action is going to be higher than you want it. A mistake that a lot of people will make is they'll just crank on the truss rod and they will flatten it out to try to lower the action. This is not the proper way to do it. So this is why I want to bring this up. We're going to talk about how to properly set up your acoustic guitar. Basically, no matter what, your fretboard needs to be at the same measurement at all times. That is not an adjustment. That's not a variable adjustment that you make all the time. Your neck relief needs to be set at whatever it's going to be set at to give you your flat playing surface. Now, that being said, this has a pickup in here. We need to make sure that this is 100% flat and as even as possible. Otherwise, our pickup isn't going to sound good. Also, this is a tusk nut, or a tusk saddle. A lot of people are going to say, change it out for bone. But bone is inconsistent, it's spongy, it's got voids in it. Tusk does not. So an acoustic guitar, actually, tusk really is the way to go. All right, so we're going to drop that back in there. I'm going to grab a set of strings, and we're going to start going through this entire action of setting up an acoustic guitar from start to finish. While I was at String Joy a couple weeks ago, Scott gave me a set of his balanced 13 to 56s. I use 13 to 56s on this guitar. Whoa, Big Daddy long leg. I tried to put 12s on this guitar, and I hated how it sounded. And you might be thinking, well, it's 13s, that's insane. How could you ever play them like that? It's interesting that once I had them on there, well, the guitar came with 13s from the factory, actually. And I put 12s on it. They were on there for literally 10 minutes. I cut them back off and put 13s back on it. The guitar just liked it. It just felt good. And everybody that plays this guitar is like, dang, this guitar plays amazing. And then I tell them that it has 13s on it. So don't be afraid to, you know, experiment with string gauges outside of, I could never play, you know what I mean? Because people do that. I could never play blah, blah, blah. Try it, because every little guitar setup is different, etc. All right, strings are on the guitar. I haven't trimmed anything yet because I haven't stretched anything yet. Everything's good. Let's go ahead and get this guitar roughly tuned up to pitch. Actual pitch doesn't matter yet, so let's just get this baby tuned up to pitch. All right, now what we're going to do is get these strings stretched in a little bit. Put your finger on the first fret so you don't break your nut, and just give it a couple of these all the way down the length of the string. That'll set it into the peg head. It'll also get any stretch out of the string that might be there. And you won't have to fight tuning stability for the first 3 songs of your gig because it's already been taken care of. All right, now put the guitar in tuning and playing position, because we don't want the neck to be under any kind of tension. We want it in playing position, and then tune the guitar as close to pitch as you're going to. At this point, you want to make sure that you're going to use the tuning that you're going to use on the guitar. So if you're down a half step or down a full step, or you're doing a drop D thing, or you're doing any kind of alternate tunings, this is the time to tune it the way the guitar is going to be played. In the link to the video, in the description and in the pinned comment, I'll put a couple of suggestions for tuners that we use for these setups that work pretty well. I don't use Snark. They're not consistent enough for me. We use Korg tuners. So I just want to mention that. We'll put a link to them in the description. So now we got a pretty... Okay, so now we've got the string tension where we know it's going to be while we're playing it. This is the time that we establish the playing surface on the guitar, which is the neck relief. A lot of people think that this is how you adjust the string height on the guitar, but that is incorrect. When we adjust the neck relief, what we're doing is we're establishing the playing surface for the whole thing. So I'm going to put my first finger on the first fret. I'm going to put my other finger where the guitar, the neck meets the body. This will be different for every guitar. Mine is about the 14th fret. So then I'm going to fret it here, and I'm going to look at the distance between the string and the fret halfway between, which is right about here. And this depends on the quality of the fretwork on your guitar, but about 5 thousandths to 10 thousandths of an inch is where you want this to be. Mine is about 5. If it just makes that little tapping noise, but it's not too high, I would say a business card should bind up when you put it between there. Something like that. That's what you want. Now, if you do that, don't do it in this position, but I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes. If you do that, and there's nothing here, you don't have any gap, that means the center of the neck is too high. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your Allen key and you're going to put it into the truss rod adjustment here. And if there is no gap and it is too flat because the center of the neck is too high, then you're going to loosen the truss rod about 1/8 of a turn. You're going to recheck your tuning in playing position, and then you're going to check it again, and you'll have a little bit more of a gap there. Is it enough? Okay. Is it too much? What if you check this in playing position and it's too much and you have too much of a gap? Then you want to put your Allen key in to your truss rod and you want to tighten it, righty-tighty, and that'll bring the center of the neck up. Once you get that to 5 to 10 thousandths, depending on how good your fretwork is, and you can play with that a little bit, that little adjustment, you want that thing, probably 10 thousandths actually, for most guitars. Right about there. Okay? Then your playing surface has been established on your guitar. Now here's the thing. What if you look underneath there and you're like, well, my action is way too high. That doesn't even make sense. I want to tighten that up to bring the center of it up, to bring the action down. Then here's what happens to your guitar. You get a big hump in the middle of your neck, and you get unevenness from here to here. Then it ends up being flat in the middle, and then you get this weird fall off on the end. The neck ends up not being straight. The playing surface ends up not being flat if you try to over tighten your truss rod to adjust your action. You don't want to do that. You want to establish that as an almost flat playing surface with a little bit of relief so that the strings have enough room to move without rattling. Okay? In fact, if we play this guitar right now, this is all rattling, but that's 5 thousandths of an inch. Now, what is that going to depend on? It's obviously going to depend on the quality of your fretwork. If you've got high and low frets, you might need to make that gap a little bit more, or take it to a fret place, a guy that does fretwork, and have him fix it. If you're not comfortable with doing it yourself. Okay, now we still haven't fixed the action problem, because what if there's way too much of a gap over here and your action is still really high, and you're like, but I thought I fixed that. No. What we're going to do at this point is we're going to measure the distance between the bottom of the string and the top of the 12th fret, and we're going to decide what our string height should be. Typically, it's 4 to 5 64ths of an inch. I'm not going to convert that to metric. You can put it in Google. 4 to 5 64ths of an inch, typically on an acoustic. That varies, of course. You can actually look in the owner's manual of your guitar, and it will tell you the suggested action height, the string height there. Okay? And it might say to check it at the 17th fret, but mostly on acoustic guitars, it'll tell it to check it at the 12th or the 14th. I always check it at the 12th. 5/64, 4/64 of an inch is what it should be. Now here's the trick. In order to adjust this measurement, we need to take material off the bottom of the bridge if it's too high. So here's what you're going to have to do. You're literally going to have to loosen the tension on your guitar strings and pull your bridge out. But before you do that, what you're going to want to do is take a caliper or some other measuring device. In fact, it doesn't really matter. And measure from, let's say, the top of your bridge surface here to the top of the saddle where the E string is, and then the top of the bridge surface here to where the top of the low E string is. And then you're going to have to do some math. And you're going to have to say, okay, the string height over here is 7/64, and I want it to be 5/64. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to measure, and I'm going to say, I need to take 2/64 off the bottom of this. And you're going to mark with a pencil or some kind of file or scribing implement right here and right here after you've measured it here and here. And then you're going to slack the strings and take the saddle out, put it on a piece of sandpaper on something flat, and very carefully take exactly whatever the difference of that measurement is. So if you need to take 2/64 off the bass side and you need to take 1/64 off the treble side, you're going to have to basically mark that and be very careful that you do it evenly, right? So you take a little bit more off of one side and less off the other, for example. Then you're going to put it back in. You're going to bring everything back up to tension, tune the guitar again. You're going to check the string height again and see where you are. Do this in very, very, very small increments. Otherwise, if you overdo it, then you'll end up with a saddle that's too low and you'll have to start completely from scratch. Don't put paper underneath it. Don't band-aid the problem. Fix it correctly. If this is something that you think you're not comfortable with doing, take it to somebody and have it done. Do not be one of those people that compensates for this because they're either too lazy or too cheap or whatever to either learn how to do it or take it somewhere, and then they compensate that with the fretboard. Don't do that, because it'll be hard on the guitar and it will never play exactly right. This is how I can hand this guitar to you with 13s on it and you're like, dang, I didn't even know they were 13s, because the guitar plays so well because it's set up correctly like this. The other thing you want to make sure that you do when you're taking height off of the saddle is that you don't tilt it one way or the other, because that'll affect the intonation on the guitar. Because obviously if you tilt it and then it leans back and now all of a sudden this saddle is too far on one side, then your intonation is going to be off. The guitar's never really going to be in tune. This takes a little bit of skill and a little bit of time. First of all, these string joy strings are amazing. Second of all, this guitar is amazing. And the setup is working absolutely perfectly. This is really, really, really good. So there's how you do it. Just a little bit of an overview. Not to scare anybody off, obviously. We want to learn how to do this stuff ourselves if we can. But, you know, this saddle height thing can be a bit of a trick. I messed it up the first time I did it. I didn't mess it up. I just went too far and decided I didn't like it and then had to redo it, you know. So just know, and they're only $5 or $6, so maybe order a couple spares and try it yourself. but just know that it's a little involved. And don't do that thing where everybody just tightens up on the neck. Don't do that. If you have any questions about anything like this, put it in the comments. Make sure you check out our live on Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. I'll try to schedule it properly. Time changes over. We're in the Eastern Time Zone. Everything should be cool. Thursday at 5 p.m. Make sure you check that out. Also, make sure you check out the patreon.com/DylanTalksTone. That'd be awesome. Yeah, there will be links to a couple of tools that we use in this video to do this kind of stuff. And if you're interested in buying this guitar, hit me up, because I do need to sell it, because I have my eye on something and I'm very, very, very excited about it. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you soon.